Parents, this episode is designed to help kids understand better, but without causing nightmares.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Hello everybody,
And welcome to Dad and Me Love History.
today this is our second episode from Nazi Germany.
This is Andy Factor's survival story.
And parents, yes, he is related to Max Factor, originally called Maximilian Factorowitz. And we'll see how being related to Hollywood's top makeup artist saved not only Andy's life, but the lives of his whole family.
Let's see how from the man himself.
Hi Andy, I'm Paul. Paul, yeah, nice to meet you. And this is James.
This is your son.
Yeah, that's
Good.
good.
Very pleased to meet you.
Andy, where were you originally from?
I was born in Germany, in Saxony, in a little town called Falkenstein, in 1924.
In 1924. So when did you first really become aware of the Nazi hatred for Jewish people?
I remember when I was at a very young age, about 6 years old, I heard my parents say that they hoped that the Nazis would never come to power. However, in 1933, Hitler took over. I was then 9 years old. 9 years old in 1933, when the Nazis came to power. My happy times at school soon changed.
So you told us earlier you were separated in the school classroom. I wonder whether you could take your story forward from there, please.
Well, it wasn't just a separation that I experienced in the classroom. I was barred from taking part in sports activities. I was not allowed to go into the swimming pool, and I was not allowed to go on hikes, which meant that during those periods, I was left by myself in the classroom, and the teacher would give me some homework and some books to read. But I would say something actually good came out of that, because I used that particular time where I was in isolation, when the classroom was empty, when there were no students in the classroom any longer. I started to study very hard, and I made it up my mind at that time that I would be good at what I am supposed to be.
Wow. So imagine your age, James is 10, having the kind of maturity to make that decision to, I guess, partly to prove Jewish people are every bit as good and clever and their brains work.
Which, of course, then created another problem, because I proved myself, particularly in music. I was practicing my violin and excelled in it, and I was a good drawer. But that again worked against me, because it created a jealousy again of the students of my class. So my school days were, of course, became very miserable for me.
And now we go to an advert break for parents.
The Slightest Chance is my latest World War II thriller love story based around real history. After the Japanese won the Battle of Hong Kong, a young English woman named Gwen, who was a real person, was the only female to escape from a Japanese camp, and she did so on foot, and then faced an 800-mile journey across occupied China. By the end of this novel, you will have learned all about her extraordinary adventure and how Gwen was secretly carrying information which the very top of the British government would use in the fight against Imperial Japan. Also from real history, included in the novel is the mass breakout led by a one-legged Chinese admiral. And then there's the Japanese guard, Kiyoshi Watanabe, whose Christian faith pushed him to risk his life helping Japan's enemies. Find out more at poorletters.com. The slightest chance, when your enemy is your best friend.
We love history. We love history, baby. We love history.
I was also told I would not be allowed to attend school classes for year 11. Jews were not allowed to attend the classes any longer.
So you left school at 14, did you say?
I was 14 years of age, yes. And this was in 1938. And I also remember, because I was good at my instrument, I was tested by a teacher from another city who wrote to the music school in Leipzig, which was very famous for being first class in teaching music, whether I would be able to study there. And of course, back came a letter that Jews were no longer accepted. My violin gave me a lot of pleasure. It accompanied me even when I left Germany. It's my instrument. I still have it at home.
You still have it at home, your violin?
Yes.
Great. So you weren't allowed to study music. So
No.
What did you do? What happened?
So what happened in 1938, on the 8th of November, came Crystal Night. I do remember coming home from my father's factory, and there was a phone call from some friends from another closed town. Do not go out tonight. Stay indoors. Keep away from windows. There will be demonstrations. And that was the night when the Germans beat up the Nazis, I should say, beat up Jews who they encountered in the streets. They are also smashed the windows of Jewish shopkeepers and practically all the synagogues in Germany. I only remember that we were very frightened. We spent the night in a back room. We never went to sleep. And my father said to me in the morning, let us see whether they have done any damage to our factory. So he sent me on an errand. I was on a bike. And he said, I'll meet you outside our factory and we'll have a look. And I came down the main street, pedaled down on my bike. And then I came to the corner where I had to make a right-hand turn where our factory was situated. And there I stopped. And there I had to make the most important decision, because I saw my father in front of our factory. On his right, a policeman. On his left, an SS.
So the SS were Nazi police or army. They had different groups. The most extreme Nazi police people. So if you were really fanatical, really extreme in your Nazi beliefs, and you believed Jewish people were bad and so on, you may well end up in the SS. They were the worst.
So of course the SS, they are the ones that committed all those atrocities in concentration camps later on and during the war. So I stopped my bike and I looked and I said to myself, will I join my father or will I try to escape? And I made a decision to join my father. And we were then marched, to our dismay and embarrassment, up the main street. And we were then incarcerated in a cell at the town hall, where we were kept overnight. In the morning, the cell door was opened, and we were told that we were being transferred to a larger prison. So there was a truck, and I did the same. And that was the first time that I saw injured people inside, elderly mainly, tending to their wounds, particularly hands and heads. We were then transferred to a large prison. And one morning, cell door opened and I was called out. I was led into a room which looked like a surgery, and there was a young doctor there. And he said to me, I'm going to examine you and I'm going to mark you unfit. What that meant that I would not be sent to a concentration camp. I only found out later why he did this. He used to be in the same soccer team as my father. And so he did him a favor by marking me unfit. I was released, but my father was then sent to the Buchenwald concentration camp.
So at this point they wanted people to work in these camps to make things, usually like in a factory, so there'd be slave workers. So his father's friend, who played soccer with Andy's father, said that Andy, as a 14-year-old, is unfit to work, so that he wouldn't be sent to this place, this horrible camp.
Yes, so, but as I am always asked how we escaped from Germany, whether we were smart, intelligent enough to work out a plan, and I tell everybody, you've got to be lucky. If you're not lucky, our escape from Germany was because of our relations that we had in America. In America, we had very prominent people. Max Factor. Max Factor was the makeup artist of film stars in the 1930s and 40s. You may have heard of them. They still got the products now. And Max Factor had a caveat in his will which said, because he died already in 1936, that anybody of the Factor family who wanted to leave Germany should be helped. And he established a fund. And they sent a substantial amount of money to Germany. So my father was released after 6 weeks. It was luck. The money was sent into a fund which the Germans said they were going to use to transport Jews out of Germany. So my father was released after 6 weeks. And I might tell you, I didn't recognize him. Came, had shaved, gaunt eyes, and his mental state was terrible. He was very fearful, but we had to take him to the local police station, where he was told we had to leave Germany within 2 weeks. We packed our bags. I certainly took my violin, and I certainly took my atlas and some of my drawings and packed them. I still have them. So during those 2 weeks, telegrams were flying left and right, and the factors secured visas for us to go to Paris, to France, which we did in France. 1939, the war started. We had already the German Luftwaffe over Paris. And during that time, we had a choice between Ecuador or Australia. Now, Australia, we do nothing about it. Must be a wild country. Must be for wild animals. What are we going to do? But we decided to accept visas for Australia. And so, when the boat berthed in Colombo, first thing my father did, he bought us tropical helmets, safari jackets, with bullet holders, because after all, we're going to a wild country. When we arrived in Perth, a gentleman from the Jewish welfare came to receive us. He looked at us. He said to us, "Take off those ridiculous garbs. You're coming to a civilized country." And I can tell you, the first time, it was like breathing oxygen. The freedom that was unimaginable. We could not believe that such freedom still exists in this world. So, anyway, came to Australia, and luck was on my side. I applied to the Maya Emporium here for a job because I had an appointment, and I showed the director my drawings because I wanted to get into the advertising department. He said, "They're very good," he said to me, "but we haven't got a position for you." On the way out, the secretary said to me, "Mr. Factor, if there's ever an opening, we will inform you." And I can still hear the director springing up saying, Factor, are you related to Max Factor? I said, "Yes." He said, "Of course, we've got a position for you." So you see, you have to vary lucky. And I worked in the advertising department for about a year, whereupon I got a note telling me that I was drafted into the Australian Army.
Oh, wow.
So that ended my position at Myers. Yes. But here I must tell you, have I got time?
Yes, tell us.
I must tell you, as an 18-year-old then, I was raring to go and defend Australia. Give me a rifle. The Japanese were already bombing Darwin. See, in Australia, I remember they still played football in stadiums where there would have been 60, 70, 80,000 people.
So even in about, I guess it's 1942, around there?
Exactly. And I was drafted in the Australian Army.
So when you were in the army, did you stay in Australia for the duration of the war?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
We were sent to the border of New South Wales, and I can tell you, our company, the 6th Employment Company, consisted of lawyers, doctors, scientists, all refugees.
Right, wow. So that was deliberate, obviously.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Welcome to Australia, this wonderful mix of people.
Yes. Later I pursued my music. I did my degree at the Melbourne Uni, and I became a professional.
Oh, brilliant.
I became a professional musician. I was leading the orchestras at the theatre. I did ballet, opera, I did musicals, television. I did it all.
I just want to say how fantastic it is and what a privilege it is to be able to talk to you, to interview you, Andy, for Dad and Me Love History.
Thank you, Andy.
We love history. We love history, baby. We love history.
Here are some questions based on today's episode. 1. Why was Andy not allowed to complete high school or go to music school in Nazi Germany?
2. What type of products does Max Factor Company still make today?
3. In which month and year was Crystal Night, when the Nazis smashed up Jewish shops and synagogues? That's like Jewish temples or churches.
Number 4. Which country did Andy and his family first go to when they left Germany in 1939?
And then number 5. Why did they leave that country, the answer to number 4, to go to Australia?
Number 6. And the final question. Andy got a job with Maya department store, but why did he leave that job?
It was a delight to meet Andy. Help more people to hear his story by telling your friends about this podcast.
And please review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us and share us on
Facebook,
Instagram,
Twitter.
Bye for now from
Dad and Me Love History.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Okay, we're recording now.
Yeah. Starting now.
Let's hear now from the man himself. Let's hear now from the man himself. Let's hear how from the man himself. I did say himself, so don't complain.
Okay.
I'll say it again, fine. Let's hear how from the man himself.